Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'll show you how you can produce nighttime or evening renders here in Enscape. And once again, before trying to make any kind of simulation, it's always very important to take a look at references. And we can notice that in pictures and drawings, we normally still have a little bit of the effect of a blue skylight. So we can notice this blue effect coming from the outside and producing a very interesting color for the scene. And we can also notice that the artificial light plays a very important role in this kind of simulation. And we can get a very interesting contrast between the artificial light and the natural light, producing some yellow and blue tones in the whole image. So when I usually create nighttime or evening simulations, I try to keep this blue brightness coming from outside because it normally produces a very interesting and beautiful image. Okay, so I'm using here the same initial file that we've used before to make it easier, but I'll have to make some procedures again. So first of all, I will start Enscape. I'll click here. Okay, I'll continue to use the side-by-side layout. So I'll drag this window here to the right. Okay, I can choose this window here. I'm not using here the synchronized view, so I can change my view here in the Enscape window. And I'll basically try to find some interesting angle. It can be similar to the one that we've chosen in the previous lessons, but you can feel free to choose the angle that you prefer. It can be somewhere around here. You can also check if the safe frame is on, and you can turn it on because it's important to see the final result. And once again, I will open the visual settings and I'll choose the style white. So we have the material override effect. Okay, so now I can start my simulation, and the first step once again is to play with the time and the date. So I will move the sliders. I can change the time, I can also change the date. And of course, I'm searching for a simulation that doesn't have this very strong projection here of the sun. So I can choose some very early times of the day. For example, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. And I can also now try some different date values. And after trying different times of the day, I found this combination actually good, so I will leave it as it is, and you can try something similar if you like. And you can notice that we have a nice blue tone entering the scene coming from the skylight, so I'm getting very close to the effect that I'm searching for. And now it would be important to save this configuration in a scene. So we could do this here in SketchUp, but since we are not using the Synchronize Views option, I would suggest that we click here in the View Management and we can create here the view. So I'll click and then I can name it as Nighttime View. And of course, we could also change the sun's position here, but I'll just leave it as it is and I'll click here in Create. So now if we make any changes to the camera angle or the time and the date, we can always go back to this state of the scene that we've saved. And now to have a better look at the scene, I will close this tab here, and I can see that the image is getting quite interesting, but as in the other interior simulations, we can notice that there is a lack of brightness coming from the skylight here inside the scene. So as we did before, I can place here a group of lights that could simulate this kind of effect. So actually we could create this light here in the Enscape objects, but to make it faster, I will bring the same group of lights that we used in the daylight simulation. So I'll click here, File, Import, and once again, I will search for the file Area Light. I'll click here, I'll click to import, and I can place this light here once again behind the door. So somewhere around here. I can place it anywhere, and then I can put it in the right place with the snap. So I can drag it right here behind the door and maybe move it a little bit backwards. Okay. And you can notice that the lights are very strong and the colors are very strange for a night simulation. So to change the intensity and color, first we have to double click the light group. Then we can select any light here, and then we click in the Enscape Objects button, okay? And here we can change the luminous intensity. So if we drag the slider to the left, we can see now that the light is less powerful, and we just have to change one of them, and all the others are going basically to follow up. And after changing the intensity, we can change now the color to produce the effect of the blue skylight. So whenever we want to change the color of a light in Enscape, we basically have to change the material of the light. So I will select all the lights here that belong to this group. I will activate my Paint Bucket tool. I will explore my material tabs, and I will open the colors category, and now basically I have to choose a color that we can put in our lights. So I will explore the blue tones here. So maybe this blue is okay. I'll choose this color. I will click now in my lights, and we can see that now we have a nice blue natural light entering the scene and producing a very interesting soft shadow, and we have a much more interesting image that we had before without the area lights. Okay, so I'm quite happy with this result, and now I would like to place some artificial light here in the scene to produce a nice contrast of yellow and blue. So basically now I can exit the group. I will hit the ESC key. So now I can place the artificial light here in Enscape, and I will first of all search a better angle. So I'll try to orbit my view so that I can see here underneath this wall lamp, okay? And before actually placing the light here, it's important to understand that if we place any object inside a component, it will automatically change the other component. So if I put the light here inside this group, the other wall lamp will also have a light inside. So here I will double click this component, okay. And to insert the light here in Enscape, we can click up here in Enscape Objects. Okay, we can use again the sphere light, which is a very simple kind of light. So I'll click here. And to place the sphere light here inside the lamp, we need to click twice. So we can first click here in the border, and then we can try to click somewhere here in the center of the lamp. Okay, and we can see that we have a very strong effect here in the render. So first of all, we can decrease the intensity of this light. So I'll move this slider to the left, maybe till a value around 5. I think it's quite okay. And now I will move this light a little bit to the center and maybe downwards until we get the right shadow here. So I can close this window, and with the move tool, I will basically move it a little bit downwards in the blue axis. Then I can try to find the center in a better way, and sometimes we spend a little bit of time till we get the light to the right location. And I think that now we are starting to get the right effect. I'll just move it a little bit now in the red axis, and now I think it's quite okay. And I will actually click here once again, because I will increase this light source radius, because it makes the shadows a little bit softer, and you can see that now the light is not so strong when it hits the wall. So I will place this slider somewhere here in the middle. I think it's fine. Okay, now I can close here this window. And finally, it would be interesting to choose a nice warm color to these lights. So we can once again choose here in the materials tab a color that we can put in our object. So maybe a yellow like this one here can work. So I'll click here. I can basically click here in the light, and we can see the effect here, which is quite okay. And after, we can basically once again click the select button. I can click here outside my object, and we have now a very interesting simulation with blue and yellow colors producing a nice nighttime effect. So I'm quite happy with this result. And the final step here would be to open the visual settings and make some final addition to this image. And actually, before making any kind of change here, my suggestion would be to create a new preset. So if by any chance your window is closed, you can expand here, and now you can create a new preset. So I'll click here, create preset. I will call it nighttime preset. Okay, and now you can see that actually when we created this new preset, all the configurations were resetted to the initial state. So we don't have anymore the white style, but I'm quite okay with this because we are already in the final stage of our production. So basically now we can make some final adjustments. So feel free to explore the exposure value if you find that this image is too bright or too dark. We can also explore here the images and increase the contrast if we like. We can play with the saturation and the color temperature. So there are many parameters that we can still configure here. My suggestion here would be to increase a little bit the bloom. And now we will have this glare effect in the bright areas of our image, which I really like. We can also increase the vignette, so we have these dark borders. But there are other features that are also interesting. For example, we can open the atmosphere tab. And here we have the artificial light brightness. So here we can change the brightness of the artificial lights. So in our case, if we find that our lights are too strong, we can basically move the slider to the left, and now they are getting much softer than before. So this is a very good way to control the artificial light instead of changing the intensity of each one of them. It would be also very important to open the sky tab here and choose the forest background because it's the same background we used in the other simulations. We can also choose the same value for the rotation that was around 260 degrees. Okay, and now we are reaching the final result, but of course you are free to change the other parameters to get a more interesting image if you like. And to produce the final render, we can check our output here. Full HD is quite fine. I would suggest as well that we open the main tab and increase the rendering quality to the best quality possible. And now basically we can click here in the screenshot button. We can find a place to save our image. I will save it once again as JPEG and I will name it nighttime simulation. Okay. And now, just after a few seconds, we have our final image with an interesting blue color and these artificial lights producing a nice contrast. And to finish this lesson, my final suggestion would be to link the nighttime preset that we created to the nighttime view. So I can open here the view management. Here in nighttime view, I can click here in this button. And now here where we have the linked visual preset, we can change to the nighttime preset. And now we can save this change and also close this window. So now if we make any changes to the angle and to the sun's position, and also if we make any changes to the current visual setting, we can basically click the nighttime view and it will restore all these parameters that we've configured.